after cornering the priest who spoke up against the Khalistani violence at Brampton Hindu Sabha Temple, the Canadian police have arrested one man and two others who were part of the Indian protests against the attack. The man, named Ranendra Prasad, was arrested by Peel Regional Police and later released on bail. The priest, on the other hand, who was earlier suspended, has now been reinstated after outrage. The Hindus Foundation in Canada has hit out at the Brampton Mayor for his campaign after the Hindu protesters and his silence on the Khalistani mob that attacked the temple. Let's start our conversation. Professor Madhav Nalapat, this Hindu phobia that continues to spread unabated in Canada, how do we control it despite statements that have come from Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, who at least remarks that the Hindus are going to be, and their safety is going to be paramount, but nothing much really happens on the ground?
Either Justin Trudeau is not being sincere, or he is a completely ineffective person as Prime Minister. He can't control his own government. I'm really surprised, Megha. You know, when you have a situation in which criminal acts have been committed, in which you have intimidation, you have violence, you have threats, and these are criminal acts. They're not simply words, they're actions. And then what happens is that those who peacefully protest against those acts, they are criminally charged. One of them is sent to jail. One of them is sent to jail for protesting against a crime committed on a temple, and possibly even he was also there, so on him as well. Frankly, Megha, this is an inversion of the rule of law. This is an inversion, frankly, of the fundamental principles of law. And that fundamental principle is that if your words are followed by an action, then it is a criminal act. Yes, words by itself do not mean anything. But you look at look at Mr. Pannoon. He is not just talking. He's collecting money, resources, and doing all kinds of facilitation to terror groups. Is that not action? Is that not a cause for criminal charges to be pressed against him? But no, he's roaming around scot-free in both the United States and Canada. I hope that if a new administration comes, this complete inversion of criminal law will be rectified. But frankly, this is a completely turning topsy-turvy the entire concept of criminal law as is practiced in India, in Canada, and in the United States as well.
Right.
And that law has not only been flouted, that law has been turned on its head so that the innocent victim is penalized and the guilty goes scot-free, Megha.
You're absolutely right. And that gives us, bringing back, reviving memory of the 1985 Khalistani attack on the Air India flight, the Kanishka flight, and where these criminals, these terrorists were allowed to roam scot-free. Surinder Singh Lali, what's so contrasting and audacious of the Canadian government and the police and the armed forces over there is, while there is a Hindu priest who has made a speech, he has been arrested, he has been suspended. On the other hand, when the Khalistanis come out and hold these violent protests, they are stone pelting, there are Hindus that are beaten up, the temples that are being desecrated, and then they are putting out demonstrations rejoicing and celebrating the assassination of Indira Gandhi. Does this not amount to inciting hate, inciting terror? How is it that Trudeau is able to justify these acts as quote-unquote freedom of expression and freedom of speech? But what happened 2 days ago with the priest talking about how the Hindus need to come together and fight back against the atrocities that are being meted out to them in ways of Hindu phobia by these Khalistani extremists, somehow to be inciting hate and then being justified in putting that person behind bars?
Thank you, Megha. And it's very unfortunate that this pyromaniac has, put the entire house on fire. and they've been crossing the Lakshman Rekha not for now, but for the last 40 years in a row. I mean, it was his father who first didn't give any relevance to when we wanted Burma to be extradited, and Air India Kanishk unfortunately happened. But now the cancer has gotten so deep that I'm going to give you two examples. Number one is that out of the 338 MPs, barring Chandra Arya and Kevin Wong, not a single one in their criticism on the temple attack has used the K word. That ought to give you the idea of the penetration of these K elements from top to bottom. I mean, in those protests, the second time over, not the first time. I mean, I don't know what is Canadian intelligence, probably having coffee at Dunkin' Donuts. Harinder Sohi, who's a Peel police officer, was also there in the Toronto attacks. In these attacks, in the video, you can hear, one of the victims saying, that's a Khalistani police wala, that's a Khalistani police wala. So I don't know under which rock the RCMP and the Peel police have been sleeping. Not to mention, another convict, Sandeep Singh Sandhu, now he's a superintendent in a Canadian Border Service Agency, was accused and involved in the murder of a Shaurya Chakra winner, Balwinder Singh Sandhu. So, Megha, this cancer has gotten from the top to the bottom, and I wish I could share Professor Nalapat's optimism, but the way even the leader of opposition has been conveniently quiet.
I mean, he cancelled the Diwali celebrations at his official residence.
Yeah, cancelled the Diwali celebrations, and there have been times when the entire Canadian Parliament holds a 2-minute silence for a terrorist, a no-fly zone list gentleman, a plumber brandishing AK-47 who's been to Pakistan, links with ISI. So I'm not too sure, because this cancer has gotten so deep. I mean, the only hope probably now would be with the regime change in the United States, and let's see how Donald Trump would choose to react to this. Because when I was in the US, we used to always call Canada as America's backyard. And I don't think one needs to be a rocket scientist to know that a lot of this has been driven by the United States of America, and keeping this gentleman as a wingman, and he's only the front. And of course, he was foolish enough to have ruined the relationship. But end of the day, it all starts in the United States, be the Washington Leaks, the Washington Post, the Nijjar, Pannu, New York Southern District, Nikhil Gupta. So this is all a larger script being played out. And this idiot has been, I'm sorry to be using such a language for an elected gentleman, but if you attack on our consulates, our ambassadors, our embassies, our interests in our airlines, I'm sorry, even I'm going to, sort of cross the Lakshman Rekha and say that he needs to have his head evaluated. Thank you, Megha.
I'm also being joined by Ambassador Pinak Rajan Chakravarti. Ambassador, as was being mentioned by Professor Madhav Nalapat, there were these Khalistani flags that were waving at that violence that was clearly visible, and visuals on your screens of that violence at the Hindu temple Sabha that was taking place. There was an Indian diplomatic camp that had been set up, a consular camp that had been set up. So this was a two-way attack, one on our diplomats, the other one was happening on the Hindus living in Canada. We have those Khalistani flags clearly visible in those videos. So why has the Canadian government still refused to even acknowledge that this was an act of violence that was perpetuated by the Khalistanis?
Well, let me first say that it is this government of Justin Trudeau which has sort of gone over the top, and there was no reason for bringing the bilateral ties to this kind of situation. But he somehow thought that he would risk it, and maybe he thought that India would cave in and simply quietly accept his allegation and do exactly what he told us to do. I'm afraid he miscalculated. And that is the crucial thing. And once you miscalculate, you go public, then you are in a dead end. You cannot back off. and you have to go further. And he was under pressure from his Khalistani, Khalistan, constituency, who I believe is, important for him to get the votes to remain in power or to fight the election. So that is one aspect of it. But I don't know. I mean, it is a mystery to me as a diplomat as to why this gentleman, Mr. Trudeau, did this. Maybe he was brought up by his father, to be like this, because his father too ignored the terrorists that they were harboring.
So, but doesn't it seem very crystal clear right now what is happening in Canadian politics? On one hand, Justin Trudeau is just holding on to that position where he is likely to lose the election in 2025. On the other hand, there is the leader of opposition, the Conservatives, who are vying for the Khalistani vote that is going to then in all likelihood allow them to come to power. And in the middle of it, it is Jagmeet Singh who is benefiting from it all, because he is a Khalistani supporter who is going to get these small percentage but a significant percentage of vote for either of the parties.
Well, yes. I mean, they're all vying for that vote because it has become an important vote to get to in the elections. So all parties are doing that. But Justin Trudeau has went much further ahead. I mean, you remember his visit to India where he made a clown of himself with all kinds of dresses and, dancing. And he even brought a convicted terrorist in his team, which was discovered and finally outed in the media. Now, this is the kind of person we are dealing with. I don't think, as I go back to, you asked the question, why is he doing it? Of course, I don't have the answer, but I can only speculate.
Right.
I have said so that he thought, perhaps, and because probably encouraged by his American, patron, that, you go ahead and do this and India will back off and we'll be able to push India into a position where India will come under pressure and India will listen to us. This is all part of a geopolitical game, at the back of which is the anger that America has sort of displayed openly sometimes, but mostly it's within the deep state, because India did not listen to the Americans as far as Russia is concerned.
Okay.
India was not willing to do what the Americans wanted India to do. And that is the anger that you see displayed, manifested in these kind of acts.
Rishi Bagri, when we talk about the American patronage, and it's interesting because there is a change of guard. The Republicans have come back to power. Elon Musk, who is in all likelihood going to play a very important, significant role in the Trump government, made a statement 24 hours ago saying that the Trudeau government is bound to fail. It's going to be the fall of Justin Trudeau in 2025. How do you think is going to be the situation in the coming months now that Trump administration has taken over?
So it's a very interesting situation right now, because the US administration, the Biden administration, which was abating the Canadian Prime Minister Trudeau for all his shenanigan. Now he suddenly find that that regime has been replaced by a pro-India regime. So obviously he is on a very sticky wicket, and he has made a lot of mistakes. I mean, by basically brandishing the Niger thing, because Niger was himself on a no-fly list zone. His bank accounts were frozen already by his own government. So now suddenly he's coming out and claiming him to be the born-up citizen of Canada, although the evidence proved that he actually got the citizen with all the fake documents and the fake claims and everything that has been completely investigated. Now he has become a martyr in the Canadian soil. So this is thing actually not going well with even the normal Canadian citizen. Now today he has openly admitted that there are some Khalistani elements in this country, which actually India was saying from a long time that Canada is sheltering Khalistani separatists in their own land. Now today he actually admitted this thing just half an hour back. So again, his position is getting weak day by day. And then what I think this is not the only with the India. He has a very unique distinction of spoiling relationship with Israel, China, Russia, and India in just 1 year. I mean, this is the very interesting thing which has happened in the Canada. So again, I think all these things are going against him. And if Trump is coming, because Trump is he's very anti-Trump. He has made a lot of anti-Trump statement. So the personal relationship between the Trudeau and the Trump is not very good. Everybody knows that, and that actually is going to
nonetheless, a congratulatory message and an enthusiastic one that did go out from Prime Minister Trudeau to President-elect Donald Trump after that landslide victory. Professor Madan Nalapat, the question over here, I'm going to bring back that conversation to the Hindu phobia, the plight of Hindus, which are a marginal percentage of the Canadian population. How do we tackle this? Are we at this point in time just going to make statements and then do nothing about it? Like what has happened in Bangladesh, are we really so desperate and cannot do anything and just forced to sit while all these anti-India, anti-Hindu activities take place in Bangladesh and something similar happening in Canada?
Look, Megha, I'd like to point out Justin Trudeau has certainly not got bad relations with China. They are putting on a camouflage because Trudeau is being directly accused of being very pro-China, as his father was, by the way, quite openly. And China is also accused of interfering in the last Canadian elections on behalf of Trudeau and his party. Now we're talking about Russia. Yes, I agree with you. In fact, the Biden presidency, the Harris campaign, all that went full speed ahead on the Ukraine war, on an anti-Russian platform. And what happened to them? They lost miserably to Donald Trump and J.D. Vance, both of whom have strongly supported an immediate end to this kind of blanket assistance to Ukraine. And frankly, Trump has been, he's talked multiple times Putin, according to the US media sources, are friendly to Biden. So what? It didn't hurt him at all. Trump made a very, very strong comment about the genocide of Bangladeshi Hindus in Bangladesh. Has it hurt him? Not at all. So, and where Russia is concerned, the mood is different. Vance and Trump are in favor of making up with Russia, possibly because they want Russia to come on the US and Indian side vis-a-vis China. That would have been a sensible strategy. And Biden has done the opposite, and Harris has followed him. Now, what happened to Harris? What happened to Biden? They lost miserably. So I want to say that so far as voters is concerned, I think Trudeau is making the same mistake that Biden and Harris made, assuming that this kind of rhetoric, anti-Hindu rhetoric, pandering to certain extreme elements, tolerating narcotics and all kinds of other activities, not doing enough about them. Well, that I think is counting for a lot.
Yeah.
And as far as Sikh vote is concerned, in my view, Megha, having known members Sikh community, including in Kerala, the overwhelming majority of them do not support this K group at all. And I think Trudeau is making a mistake of assuming they represent the majority when they represent a tiny minority, Megha.
Okay. Surinder Singh Lali, my question remains, how do we safeguard the lives of the Hindus who are at this point of time being attacked? They are not safe, and there is Hindu phobia that is spreading in Canada as well.
Megha, please allow me to open this up, and as Professor Nalapat kind of set the base for it, it's not just the Hindus, even the Sikhs. The K elements have been beating up the Sikhs for the last 40 years.
Yes.
I mean, the Sanch, the ex-premier of British Columbia, had his head split open on a few occasions.
Yes.
It is only now that we are learning that they have unfortunately crossed the Lakshman Rekha and started, attacking the unfortunately, are Hindu brothers and sisters. So much so that even on that given day in the temple, if you look at the photograph, more than half the individuals availing the services of the Indian consulate on their pension records are Sikhs. So it is not to do with actually Hindu versus Sikhs, it's to do, these Hindu plus Sikhs versus the K element. And what is even more ironical about Justin Trudeau is that obviously if he's pandering to the Sikh vote, he's working under the assumption that the 2% or 1.8% Sikhs are all going to vote for him. No, that's not the case. At any protest, there are not more than 20-25 people. Even if, as a close watcher, the highest any political pundit in Canada has commented is about 250,000 people. That's the highest. So I don't think he's able to manage more than 25 to 30 people at a given time. And it's not even going to pay many political dividends, because unless one is working under the assumption that each one of the Sikhs living in Canada are supporting the K. So he is going to burn himself from both ends. This is what I feel, Megha.
Ambassador Chakravarti, now I am also at this point of time empathizing with the number of Indian nationals who have found their life and built their life in Canada, from the first generation Canadians to the third generation Canadians, and more importantly the recent migrants, and how they are stuck in Canada. They cannot return, they can't come back and meet their families, they cannot spend time with the families because visas have been restricted, and they are living like prisoners in Canada. How do we figure out help these people, help these Indians?
Well, I think the government of India is always prepared to help our nationals. But then you function in a foreign country where if the host government refuses to, for example, provide some security. I have done consular camps in my career, and I know how host governments helped and assisted our consular camps so that people get the service they want. But if today you start attacking our diplomats, these fellows, start, shooting at effigies of diplomats, it creates a fear psychosis, all over the place. So naturally, it prevents our diplomats and consular workers go out and provide these services. We are prepared to do it. But then how do you do it if the consular camp is attacked by these goons and these, who I agree are not too many, and I've never seen a huge crowd, but they are very aggressive, and they are, they shout a lot and they threaten you, etc. And now I think slowly the other Indians are getting together. I don't want to call them Hindus. I said the Hindus, not just the Hindus. I would call them other Indians who are, and I would include Sikhs in them, obviously, because we are very proud of our Sikhs, and I don't think they are, they are part of this, goon brigade which does all these things. So I believe that this is a situation at the moment, and obviously mistakes have been made. We had good relations with Canada. We want good relations with Canada. It is a fellow democracy. But you don't go out on a limb and start accusing Home Minister for doing this or that, etc. Now I am firmly of the view that Justin Trudeau has been taken for a ride, and he has fallen for something that has made him do all this, expecting certain benefits, either from within his country or from his big daddy neighbor down south. Something has happened, and I don't think any sensible, rational prime minister of a democratic country would do such a thing.
Right.
So I believe there's a lot of frustration also perhaps growing in him that that this has backfired.
Okay.
So I think this is also a point.
Absolutely, yeah, that's a good point that you raised. Rishi, I'm coming back to you, and here talking about an incident that has also taken place, which is related to the downturn of ties between India and Canada, and External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar's speech has been censored by the Canadian government. Now that's a new law, which I don't know, was it? I don't think I could ever comprehend the move that has been made by the Canadian government.
Actually, Canadian government have never expected, the Indian to give a very strong and a very straightforward statements. They were never used to have this kind of, Indians taking on them, taking on a NATO country like Canada. But this is what exactly is happening. I mean, India is straight away taking Canada for cleaners, and they never expected this thing. So they don't expect the straight talks, and the worst part with the Canada is that they draw all their power from the deep state of the United States, and now the things have changed. So they have actually looking stranded right now. They don't know what to do, what not to do, because all their the guy who used to back him, they actually lost election. Problem with them, and Modi and Trump has his own unique chemistry within themselves. So this is the problem with him. So he has to do the climbing part. He has to mend the bridges, because he have no other option left right now. So usko chane ke jhaad pe chadha diya gaya tha. Now he have to climb down. This is the problem with him.
Okay.
So he's going to escalate, as he has no other option left right now.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.